I'm the Snow Queen. And I'm not that obnoxious snowman. I'm the carrot. And this is Sibling Rivalry.
Stop the winter, please.
Don't you see? I can't.
You know it all ends tomorrow, so it has to be today.
Let's go bring back summer!
I'm not leaving without you, Elsa.
Only Princess Anna can warm the heart of the Snow Queen in Frozen, Disney's latest animated princess film. I'm just gonna call them that because it's a genre now. It really is the princess,
the Disney
genre.
Princess genre.
It really
we got
is.
a twofer. This is a twofer.
Yeah, we got two.
There
Well,
be two princesses.
Yeah, that's
in
right.
this
One becomes a queen, which is pretty friggin' rare, but we'll get to that. Okay, so we have this movie here, Disney's latest princess genre animated film, and just been getting critical praise like mad. A lot of people are saying, like, you know, this is as good as Beauty and the Beast. Everyone is really glorifying it. Yeah, they're kind of right.
I'm not gonna go that far. It's good. I'm really torn because I'm like, it's good. At the same time, I'm like, my God, it's the next Beauty and the Beast. I'm like, it's good.
Okay. Let me say this: the first 2/3 of this movie, I think, are just, again, it makes me feel like I'm watching pure Disney again. You know, the songs, the animation, everything. The last third is where I get into it's good.
Yeah, and that's probably the issue I'm having because it was rock solid and then it just goes good. So the last thing I remember is it's good.
Yeah. So we'll get a little bit to the end of the spoiler corner. But pretty much the setup is you have these. You have this one princess, two little girls who has this power can freeze things. I mean, it is the Snow Queen. Actually, I don't think there's a sister in there, but I could be wrong.
Okay, let's just say straight up that Hollywood, you really need a new credit. Loosely based on ... Like, loosely based on the Hans Christian Andersen story.
So
just ignore that part of it.
so you got Elsa and Anna and their princesses. One was born with this ability, can just free things. Touches something, freezes, can turn anything to ice. Seriously injures her sister when she's younger. And everyone's afraid because there's this huge prejudice and people's gonna think she's a monster. So they try to make it so they take her to these magic trolls and they erase the sister's memory of it and just the acknowledgement that she has this power at all. But because of that, they have to keep them really secluded and really far away because then they're, you know...
It's a really dark opening.
Yeah, and
the first 20 minutes of this film, I'm like... I just kept wanting to see a little Disney logo flash as all these dark things happen.
Yeah, of course you have the parents die. They're not going to get rid of all the Disney
cliches. When she's standing at the graves, I was like, when you wake upon a star...
Well, that's the McDonald's logo. This is the Disney logo.
Well, like, it does like, okay,
So you got that going on. So years pass by. Elsa is of age. She's gonna be the queen. She's appointed queen. Is afraid because she is not in control of her powers. And she's finally outed, and things get out of control. Everyone's saying she's this horrible creature, and it's pretty much X-Men. You know, in Disney World. So she decides to run off into the mountains.
No, it's X-Men at Epcot, Norway. Is what it is.
It's so you got her running off into the mountains, builds her own castle, and everything is in permanent winter. So her sister has to go to snap her out of it. Along the way, she comes across colorful characters, possibly the love of her life, and all sorts of hijinks ensue. The first thing I thought of, even when I saw the trailer, first thing I thought of is this is Tangled in Christmas time. And it's not, which I'm really happy. It does sort of have its own thing going on, despite the fact they look Tangle-ish. You know, it does sort of look like Rapunzel in different wigs.
I'm wondering if we're going back to that... Back when that horrible CGI Final Fantasy movie came out, they were talking about this concept of one character model and treating her as if she was a star, so they would just change the aesthetics, like different wigs, and Disney just perfected it. Because I'm thinking the same thing. I'm like, oh, so it's the same girl model from Tangled.
Although they did it. She does make a...
You gave her freckles and different hair. Got it.
Did you catch the cameo in there? Rapunzel?
I did.
I thought that was clever. It's so many good things to talk about in this one. I think when I did Disney December, I was talking about Princess and the Frog, I was talking about Tangled, I said, somewhere between these two movies, if you could mesh them, there's like this really brilliant animated film trying to get out, and it seems like this is it, because
then a miracle!
yeah, and what I really like about it is that they take, Disney is very much, it's gotten really ridiculed for being misogynistic, and the fairy tales are real life, and
It still is, let's be honest.
Well,
but
no,
they tried this time.
No, they've really, slowly but surely, they've been trying to make these changes, but they have a real difficult task because Disney really sells, and the princess line is like huge.
It's baby steps. It's like we've got the next baby step. It
But
still
this
sits
was-
back, but
I think this was still a really good kind of baby step. I think, because you have to make these steps, you have to do this while still making it, while still pleasing the general sort of Disney princess loving audience, and still having it be entertaining, while still having good morals. And by God, did they balance it well in this, especially with this idea you get later where the act of, like, true love is going to save the day. Again, a Disney cliche, but how it's done is so much better than how they're leading you to think it's going to be done. And it's just such a good, strong moment. And on top of that, you have sisters in this, which you rarely see. You got, like you said, you have two princesses. One's a queen. We have a young,
one
young
actually
queen
is a
who's
queen.
pretty and is not a villain.
A queen. A princess who becomes a queen.
And
How
is
many
not-
times does that happen in a Disney movie?
Is not a villain. I mean, and
not the villain.
Yeah, they make that very clear that, you know, it's very much Wicked. I sort of say it's like Disney's version of Wicked.
Well, right
but-
down the fact that India Menzel is doing the singing voice.
I thought it
of
was, yeah.
Like,
But,
it really is Wicked-esque.
yeah, and it's like, all I'm thinking is, having just seen Wicked now, I'm just like, yeah, that's all I can hear. But it's still effective. And the songs in this are really catchy and really good. Segues could be a little better, but that's a nitpick.
My only nitpick, and this may be on me, is I am not in this new Disney mode of we're gonna do post-Sondheim style Broadway with like modern instrumentation and a real, like Wicked. Like it's, a lot of it sounds like Wicked, and when you see a fairy tale sort of setting and it's Disney, you have certain expectations and you expect like the Beauty and the Beast sound, the, you know, Tim Rice sort of, you know. And I'm not saying it's a bad thing, I'm just not used to it yet. When you get that sort of really modern Broadway sound out of this movie, I'm like, whoa, am I in the same film?
Now, I'll tell you why I didn't mind the songs. I didn't like the segues because I was telling my wife on the way there, and she was like, well, how do you segue into a song? And I said, there's a scene where the Snow Queen, she's climbing this mountain, and you hear a piano. And I said, when did you hear a piano in any of the score in this? That's where it gets really distracting.
Well,
so
there is
you
a
can switch it
total
out.
disconnect between the songs and the musical score.
Yeah,
it's like
I mean,
they wrote
that's
a
where it
set
needs to be
series
better.
of songs, which is fine, but yeah, there is no good way to segue into it, and like I was kind of really mesmerized by the number of songs early on.
And they put in a lot.
I kind of thought this was like, I seriously was like a third of the way into this and thought, is this going to be a straight-up musical? Is this going to be like 20 songs with very little dialogue in the whole thing?
And they fade out a little bit near the end.
No, it faded out a lot. Like, somewhere after the halfway point, it really became about the action, and then there was more dialogue, and I kind of wish they had struck a balance of, like, pick
I
one
could
or
have
the
used
other,
a few more
or-
later, but no,
Yeah.
I was impressed with the songs, actually. Even the ones I thought were going to be filler, the troll one's kind of filler. But even the ones I thought were going to be
But
filler,
it was still
actually,
a good song, actually.
Yeah, they
even
still,
the filler songs were good.
They still, you find out later, oh, they do serve a purpose. And that's kind of
It's
like...
the anti-Randy Newman.
Yes,
Like,
and
with the
that's
exception
what-
of one or two songs in, like, yeah, I get it. A couple of the Toy Story songs are really cool, and I like them, but a lot of the Randy Newman songs in, like, those Pixar films is like, okay, somebody wanted an Academy Award nomination. I get it. It took a while, but, you know, so here's your song. And this one, it really, they all felt good.
I think
I don't
you
know
said
how
it too.
else to
It
say it.
felt like a musical, and it didn't feel like, okay, we got to hit our 5, we got to Lion
Yeah.
King it, we got to Beauty and the Beast it, or whatever. Because even during that whole Renaissance thing, that is what they're doing. Here's your 5 songs. Maybe one will come back, but I mean, here's your 5 songs, and we're good.
Honestly, the best thing
here
I
it
can
is.
say is it felt like Wicked. I'm like, okay, so
Yeah.
the songs are driving this story until a certain point where, yeah, they kind of just are like, maybe they didn't have faith. Maybe they thought kids were going to flee if there were too many songs. But, this is almost like Nightmare Before Christmas.
Yeah,
until they give it up. But, yeah, it's just a sheer number of songs until it kind of slides away.
That's actually a great example of how to segue songs in very well. Night Before Christmas, I think, did very well. And, of course, the guy who did the score also did the songs. That's
and so it's all interconnected.
Yeah, but... were you ready to hate that snowman? I was ready. I was like, okay,
had my
here we
popcorn
go.
and my drink ready to just chuck it at the screen, and there were so many moments where I came close, and he actually said something legitimately funny, and I'm like, you, and like...
This character could have been so easy to turn to the most... And we really thought he was going to be the most obnoxious thing, but...
You dodged a bullet, Disney. You dodged a bullet. Did you dodge a bullet?
It's like, I'm listening, I'm waiting for the voice to go annoying, but what they do, which is really clever in this performer, he had the voice go quiet, which is really smart because you're not seeing it coming, and it's sort of this new kind of comedy that's catching on, I think, especially with kids' films, and it's like, instead of going really loud, it's crazy and stuff, it's really quiet. And
it's hipster comedy.
Yeah, kind of.
Like, we're gonna be really subtle, and it's sort of... that's what you like. All of his best lines were delivered with
the
that
whisper.
Sort of,
So they just got away with it, but I'm glad because I didn't want to put up with an annoying character, and he was funny. So
it was close. Like it was finally near. It was the last 10 minutes of the film, I think, where finally I was like, no, you need to melt now. I'm really done. Just go away. But the fact that it took me that long to get to that point where it's like, I hate this guy now. Well played, Disney. Well played.
So, so for me, we'll talk about sort of the third act when we get into spoiler corner, because we really got to talk about it.
But I think to try to sell this film, because it is good. I don't think it's quite Beauty and the Beast good, but I will say this. The best thing I can say about it is, I hate saying this, but Disney's back.
Yeah, it really feels...
This really is like, so this is like the sort of film that, you would wait for as a kid. Like, because you used to be that whole slew from Little Mermaid through... I don't want to say about maybe Hunchback, and,
Well, Pocahontas was the first,
yeah.
But
I mean, Hunchback was pretty strong, but...
Yeah.
There was that time where it was like, as a kid, you would wait for a Disney film, like, ooh, and then, you grow up and that's part of it, but even as an adult, you want a Disney movie where you're just like, no, I want to see a really good animated film.
A big, epic, enjoyable, good songs, good characters, and all the characters
That's what I was going to bring up.
Yeah.
What a great cast of characters.
Wonderful cast.
They were all really likable.
And they were very unique, and you don't see, it wasn't until I saw it, that I realized you don't really see sisters in many animated films in general.
Dynamic was really fascinating because that opening was so cruel.
Yeah, and I like stories about siblings.
I appreciate abject cruelty in children's films, like I really do.
And it's well set up, and yeah, I'm trying to think what visually looks wonderful.
I will talk about this. Visually, the backdrops, the layout. Great layout artist, by the way. That Doug Walker guy.
Yeah, I know. And Rob Walker was an animator, too. Yeah, I'm glad we found work, even into CG, because we've been animators, apparently, for, like, all the way to, like, Aladdin or something.
We first noticed
Little Mermaid, even,
yeah. But Aladdin's where we noticed it. When we saw Aladdin back when we
saw Doug Walker, then we saw Rob Walker, we just went...
We were like 10 and 12, and we saw, like, a Doug Walker and a Rob Walker in the credits, and we laughed. And it's still funny, because they're still working. We made the transition to CGI. Go us! So, yeah, there's a Doug Walker and a Rob Walker. But, yeah, the layout, I think, is great. The effects on the ice are incredible. Like, it's gorgeous to look at. My one gripe, I'm not going to say Disney's being cheap, because I think it's stylistic, and I'm not going to accuse the animators of in any way being cheap. As a stylistic choice, the way the main characters are animated, that sort of tangled style, they look like Barbie dolls to me. And it kind of takes me out of it when I'm like, wow, that ice is so incredible, and I'm kind of like, there's the Barbie doll main characters. Like, it almost just doesn't quite mesh for me.
You know, compared to Tangled, because that was the one where I was saying that the voices and the way they look didn't quite match, and it seemed strange. And I don't know what happened here. Maybe they just got better voice actors, I don't know. But it seemed to mesh a little better. But I'd be lying if I said I didn't know what you were talking about. Particularly for me, it's the lips. Particularly on the men's lips. Because with women, you can give them full lips and that's easy. But with men, if you give them full lips, they look too girly and kind of weird. So they had to sort of give them these kind of plastic just slits for mouths. And they're getting better, but it's still
I think for me,
tricky.
it's the lack... I'm trying to figure out how to say this. The lack of detail and the lack of texture. And it's very strange because when you're into animation, you notice certain things. And one thing I've noticed about this style is there is texture there. They really nailed hair down.
They got the freckles on there.
And they
as
got
well.
the freckles down, but there's something about just the nature of the skin and the body shapes and everything that it just feels doll-like. Like, we're not...
Well, and let's be honest, why? They want to sell.
Well, yeah.
And their biggest selling line is... You know, I mean, it makes total sense why they would look like
but
this.
there's sort of there is a difference between this and a really good Pixar movie, and even the animation, something like How to Train Your Dragon. I'm gonna have to watch it again, but I felt that as stylized as that was, it didn't feel quite as plasticky to me.
The flesh was a bit more, the design is still they still very much look like toys, but you're right, the flesh, it did seem a little bit more fleshy.
Okay, like a good example would be Ratatouille. That's very stylized. And you could argue there is almost a plastic look to them, yet they're so animated and they're so stylized, and it just all blended so seamlessly with the sort of Parisian world that they gave you, which
Part
was
of that is a
incredibly
little
detailed.
It was a bit more blurred and warm, though. There's a lot of candlelight stuff in there, where this was very crisp and very clear.
And when they got out into the snow in this film, it really, really works. The opening I had a lot of trouble with. I was like, I don't know if I'm going to be able to love this animation, because the world they created, and it sounds terrible because I don't want to say it's cheap, it's just a stylistic thing, but it looks like a video game. In that sort of sense, like, this looks like a video game made, like, 5 years ago. Like, it just has this is obviously CGI quality, and it was really bugging me, but it after a while, it's like, I don't know if the animation got better, if I just got used to it, but when they go out into the mountains and the ice effects take over, it really, really works. And it's a very colorful film, too. Like, the color scheme in this movie was great.
Yeah, you have mostly blue, obviously, with the snow, but then, like, I think the Anna character, I mean, just had, like, that purple and that green, it just, man, does that pop. I mean,
Yeah,
really
so
pops.
I'm really up in the air about the animation, but somewhere in the middle of it, when they go to the ice fortress that she creates or whatever, I was sold. So, and it was the same thing with the movie. The movie started off good in the story department, but in the execution, it was kind of clunky to me. And somewhere in the middle of this movie, I just completely lost it. It was like, I love this movie.
The only part where I was a bit confused, but they explain later, at least they allow it to show, is why they had to keep the two separate. But then when you see how people react to the powers, it's like, okay, this makes a bit more sense. And being political figures, like king or queen, it's like it adds up.
My
a
only
bit
thing
more.
is, at no point did she think, maybe I should tell my sister now that she's a functioning adult. Because otherwise it just looks like I'm being a raging douchebag to my sister.
Well, eventually she does, but again, even
But
that
then you'd
comes
have
in.
no movie,
but
so.
that comes in too with the with what she does to her later and stuff. I mean, so there is. I think because she is such an emotional wreck, she's so afraid because the emotions seem to feed her powers.
Oh, and Disney, thank you personally for not making the reindeer talk. Had there been a talking reindeer and a snowman, I would have walked.
No, they're actually very clever, and they sort of mock it too. They mock a lot of conventions.
Disney conventions.
Which, in a smart way, though, because so you're still getting what is in a lot of the Disney film, but in a different way. The guy, the hero, or not even the hero, really, she's the hero, he's more the side character, he talks for the reindeer, which is very funny and very smart. So it's like the reindeer is still talking, it's just him putting in the voice. And the same thing with meeting the boyfriend in the beginning, with just meeting and falling in love, and the queen saying, wait, you just met, and the way it all juggles out near the end.
Mock that, and the way they resolve that is great.
It's so smart, and the way it resolves, it's just, and it's still entertaining, so you got good lessons, good morals, good characters, good cast, but it's still entertaining, and it's still a good story, and it's still Disney. It still feels like Disney, and that is so hard to juggle, and they really got it this time, in my opinion. I mean, they just really hit it solid.
I'll get you next time.
Yeah.
Next time.
So very well done. Like I said, we got a few issues with the third act, mostly sort of like some of the political characters play into it, which we'll get to that in spoiler.
And Disneyisms. Like it does,
Yeah.
that is the thing, it comes close and then falls back on Disneyisms, but
then kind of climbs out again.
yeah, it climbs out, I'm not gonna say it's as good as Beauty and the Beast. I do take issue with that, and I know there are people who hate this movie, so when I say this, don't think of this as a reason not to see it. To me, it's the Little Mermaid of New Disney now, and I know people are like, I hate the Little Mermaid, but when you think about what the Little Mermaid did, is it perfect? No, but when you look at the animation that was coming out of that studio before, and the fact that they really needed to capture something old and reboot, yeah, are there issues with the story? Sure. There aren't issues with this story, so don't not see it because I'm saying this, but it's like the Little Mermaid. They upped the animation to a certain degree. They've brought back sort of the Broadway charm, only they've updated it now.
It's updated, but it still feels Disney.
You know,
it still has that charm.
They've given it a sense of purpose. Like, no, we're going to put out a really solid product. The comic relief's going to be good and not too jarring. The story's going to take a few interesting turns, and right down to the fact that aren't both of them Hans Christian Andersen stories?
Yeah, actually, that's true.
Yeah, like right down to like literally the setting, I was like, huh, this kind of reminds me of Little Mermaid. Like, this looks like where she washed up when she was trying to, you know, bag the prince, you know. So, yeah, I'm saying it's like the Little Mermaid. I'm not saying it does not have the same problems, so people are just like, but I hated the Little Mermaid.
It does what the Little Mermaid did for Disney.
Yeah, it's that sort of reboot, you know, and so what I'm saying is this is the step to get to Beauty and the Beast. If you want a new Beauty and the Beast. I'm not saying this is Beauty and the Beast. This is that stepping stone, and it's a huge stepping stone. And we're really close, so I'm hoping that the next one they do is going to be really amazing. So, but there's still an issue here or there. It's like they're still trying to figure it out, but good job.
Yeah, really good job. My guess is if you look at this movie, and I think you can guess if this is the movie you want to see, honestly. Just it has
Don't
the Disney feel. It's
believe
updated.
the trailers. It's not,
it's not
about
the
the
snowman.
stupid snowman. It's not about the reindeer.
Yeah.
The reindeer is actually really endearing,
And
the
it's more-
snowman is almost endearing.
And it's more than just a Tangled Christmas. It really is its own story and its own
It's not
thing.
a Tangled Christmas.
So take that for what it's worth. Take care, guys.